Peace and positive. This is Amelia A. Ottal, aka Emily MC, author of Y'all Not Gonna Make Me Lose My Mind. And today's topic is on communication, self-expression, the power of listening, and the power of conversation. Now, before we get into some clips from the global community, we're looking at the different layers and perspectives on communication and its role in mental health and wellness. Now, most of us have heard the phrase communication is key when it comes to relationships. But we have enough public discourse, research, and lived experience as a society to now dig deeper into what kinds of communication are what types of keys, and which keys open or close which kinds of doors. We're here to acknowledge the skill set of active listening beyond this cliche, and the reality that communication without comprehension most of the time amounts to nothing. As Erykah Badu once sang, "What good do your words do if they can't understand you?" Or even worse, when we're communicating to those determined not to understand, or in an environment where articulation and self-expression are not safe. We're also here to look at building the art of communication in your mental health toolbox with simple building blocks at any age, and how communication not only improves relational experiences, but can reduce stress, improve knowledge of self, open up career opportunities, and increase quality of life. Now, getting some science and stats in and out up top here. According to a 2023 American Psychological Association scholarly article titled "Conversations Are Essential to Our Well-Being, Psychologists Are Exploring the Science of Why They're So Powerful," quote, "Conversation is this ancient technology for aligning our brains so that we can be on the same page. It's the most ubiquitous social behavior that we do, yet we don't really know much about it. People's well-being is determined in large part by the quality of their social relationships, which rely heavily on conversations that they have with each other. Going a little deeper in conversation, as well as learning to navigate disagreements, can create the kinds of connections that leave people feeling happier. Conversation is essentially an infinitely complex space. No two conversations are the same. There are an infinite number of words you can use, but also the order, timing, structure, and nonverbals can vary in infinite ways," end quote. Now, according to a 2025 academic journal of psychology titled "The Indirect Effect of Communication Skills on the Relationship Between Emotional Maturity and Mental Health Disorders Among a Sample of Egyptian University Students," quote, "Emotional maturity and effective communication skills have been identified as crucial factors in understanding mental health disorders. Effective communication skills enable students to express themselves clearly, build supportive relationships, and manage conflicts constructively, thereby reducing stress and enhancing overall well-being," end quote. And looking a little closer at groups of people real quick, according to an England-based coalition of over 50 nonprofits named the Communication Trust, quote, "Research shows that 45% of young people referred for mental health services experience undiagnosed or underlying communication difficulties, 3 times higher than the rate in the general population," end quote. And there's something called the suffocation factor, where a study of young adults aged 18 to 25 found that, quote, "A substantial portion struggle to convey their emotions, which directly leads to feelings of suffocation and worsened relational bonds," end quote. This is according to a 2024 study titled "Interpersonal Communication in Mental Health, an Impact Study of Interpersonal Communication Skills on Mental Health of Youth." And lastly, in very, very grown and elder groups, it's been reported that adults age 65 and older who have, quote, "difficulty communicating is a significant predictor of smaller social network sizes, higher levels of loneliness, and reduced participation in social activities," end quote. Now, the cool thing about communication is it's not just the art of speech and conversation itself, it's also in the nonverbals and creative expression. And this is why hip-hop is one of our most powerful case studies in the art of communication specifically for mental health, social equity, self-actualization, and community building. Now, this is why hip-hop is one of the most powerful case studies in the art of communication specifically for mental health, social equity, self-actualization, and community building. Now, we may have all heard the phrase, "It's not what you say, it's how you say it." But in our modern world, most are not even saying it most of the time. Avoidance and silence has been the ruler of most days and interactions. Am I right or am I right? According to a 2026 study finds analysis, quote, "Nearly 3/4 of respondents, that's 73%, said their instinct during relationship trouble is to pull away rather than talk it through," suggesting avoidance has become the default response to conflict. Now, this is in no way me advocating that no contact is absolutely good or absolutely bad, because sometimes it's just necessary, or it just is what it is for the best transmutation of trauma, and that's a case-by-case determination. As well, in the working world, a 2026 collection of workplace statistics by PumbleandCake.com reported that, quote, 86% of corporate executives and employees cite ineffective communication as the underlying reason for workplace project failures and missed deadlines, end quote. Now, that's a huge percentage, and anyone who's ever worked in a corporate environment knows exactly what time it is with that. So I say that to say that avoidance and communication gaps are all over the place. And all this unspoken, misguided, misdirected, misunderstood, and miscommunication is a mirror for all of society and human history, and something that hip-hop has uniquely pioneered in transcending for the debatable betterment of its own community, and also for the debatable betterment of all humanity. Rappers, battle rappers, MCs, DJs, graffiti writers, b-boys, b-girls, breakers, and those who kick knowledge have found ways to communicate through the arts, culture, and communal organizing in a manner that has addressed life and people as they are head on. Hip-hop has it many times articulated for itself, spoken into existence, said the quiet part out loud, named the names, diagnosed the ills, described the feelings, or started the conversations that eventually everyone wanted in on. It's due to this that we can learn a lot about the art of communication from hip-hop, even from its artists and icons who pursue non-hip-hop ventures but carry their communication skills with them. Here we can see the positive part of ego and the necessary skill of wisdom applied at the timeliest of times, Lastly, and on that note, communication has everything to do with emotional intelligence, for knowing when and how to speak to certain things and the discern of whether it's valuable to address them, let them play out, or straight remove oneself from the scenario. We touched on this in the Day 19, The Art of Noticing and Being Aware of Surroundings, aka Read the Room episode, and the Day 8 on Courage, Knowing When to Leave, and the Psychology of Endings episode. But what about when something needs a simple address or repair and not a full replacement? It's on us to have that discern too, no? And we touched on this in the Day 14, Is Everything Replaceable? On Disposability Culture episode. And what about when a situation just needs clarity at the root and the source? What about when a relationship that's important to us is rubbing our safety and well-being the wrong way? What about when we're not being heard or listened to, or sense that we're not hearing or actively listening? And even though our world is increasingly digital, automated, and less human, what about when we have to engage with other humans for the best possible outcomes of a scenario? What about when we have to advocate for ourselves, our homes, our freedom, or those we love and care about? What about when we simply have to tell a friend or a loved one something and we don't want it to come off emotionally charged or misdirected? What about when something is emotionally charged or misdirected and it needs to be addressed anyway? Now, all of this is the eternally valuable soft skill of communication, a skill that not only benefits social relationships and media engagement, but is also often a huge determinant of effective teamwork, employment, closing deals, million-dollar business ventures, and general advancement in life. And as we saw in the Day 21, Is Community Necessary for Mental Health and Wellness episode, how we communicate within and across the generations has a lot to do with how unified or disconnected we remain, and thus our ability to navigate the world with healthy support and the right amount of resilience. But I'm not going to hold you, and I'm not going to lie. As Run DMC once said, it's tricky. And as mentioned, no two conversations are exactly the same, even with the same words said. Now, this may seem unnecessarily complicated, but when we open ourselves to the fundamentals at play, starting with how we communicate with ourselves and process conversations in our own minds, we can begin to see the ease, play, and creativity in the art of making connections, asking questions, exchanging thoughts, and articulating ideas. And we can therefore see what tools we need the most for mental health, but also how endless the canvas is in front of us for the art of communication. Now, if you're following along with my original book, this is the Day 24 quote from page 91. And based on today's topic, here is prompt number 25. Now, thank you all for your support of Y'all Not Gonna Make Me Lose My Mind. And without further ado, let's roll the clips and hear from the global community about articulation, self-expression, saying it with your chest, genuine listening, and the power of effective communication. Peace.
Wait. Sorry. Aim a little more. Right there. But Daddy, I don't want you to say wait so many times. I just want you to say wait, okay?
Say wait one time, not wait. You don't like that?
No.
Just say wait.
Yeah.
Okay, just wait.
Okay.
Bring this foot, yep, step back.
No, I got this.
You got it, okay. Look at your target. Your target is going to be to the left side.
Yeah, the target is left. This left?
No.
This is left?
Yeah, this is left. The target's going to be on the left side. And close the face on impact. I'm yelling, I'm sorry. I don't mean to yell at you, son.
It's okay.
I'm sorry.
But
though.
only when you talk to me when I'm trying to do God, you can do that, okay?
But I don't want to yell.
Okay.
Okay?
But I like when you just loud, just a little bit louder, but not like so loud, but that makes my ear hurt.
Yeah.
But only a little bit loud, like you're already talking.
Like right now. Okay, cool. I got you. Yeah, I don't want to yell too much. Take your time.
Yeah, if you take too much, I don't like that, okay?
Yeah, me either. I don't like that either. I don't like yelling at you, period.
Yeah,
You're my
me
dog.
too.
Yeah, you're my dog. I don't like yelling at my
Only
dog.
sometimes I like when you yell at me,
Yeah?
but not all the time.
Okay, I'm sorry for yelling.
I know you want to yell at me, but no.
No, I don't want to yell at you.
I know, but I'm just gonna let you yell at me because it's so
No,
nice.
but I don't have to yell at you. I can talk to you like this, and we get the same thing accomplished.
Okay.
Oh,
I can.
oh, elbows? Okay. Fist bump? I like it.
Barbershop taught me how to communicate with all types of different people. Because all types of different people was coming in my chair.
Right.
And you have to know how to conversate to get that tip and,
Absolutely.
to get them to come back. Your conversation got to be, you know what I'm saying, something, okay. let's
Customer
get it.
satisfaction.
Exactly. So that right there prepared me to do the movies, to be in the industry, the music industry. That prepared me to talk to the higher ups, the people that, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
And that's basically the number one thing you need in the industry. To communicate.
We seen what happens when people don't talk. Bro, we got to show what hip hop growing up is like.
My sister and I just had a really interesting conversation about our fathers and responsibility. We landed on the realization that I've had many times before, and it's crazy to say, a lot of people will spend their entire lives running away from themselves. You think it's your local alcoholic, you think it's that uncle who never pulled himself out of depression. It can very easily be you. If you don't take the proper care to actually be accountable about what you've done, accountable about how you feel, about what you're thinking, you end up as one of the millions of people who die while lying to themselves. It's very easy to slip into that loop. People do it every day. It's not some faraway place that only happens when you get old. It starts while you're young. So this is just a reminder to be real with yourself and take accountability for the person you've become and for who you want to be. Don't run from the truth and don't run from yourself.
I think as families, we have got to stop with the secrets. Like, we have to be willing to tell our children and the people that are in our family what's really happened to us as kids, what we went through, our traumas that we went through. Because if we continue to keep secrets and keep our mouths shut, all we're going to do is we're going to continue to pass down generational curses, and nobody will be able to break them because everybody is silent. We have got to talk. If we've been through something as a child, something that really affected us, we have to tell our children so they don't end up just making the same mistakes. If something was done to us, we gotta be willing to talk about it. I honestly think, you guys, as families, we should all just sit down at a round table and discuss all of our traumas and talk about everything that we've been through, the pains, all of it. So therefore, the devil is not winning, because if we continue to not be able to speak about things, the devil is clapping, because all we're doing is handing down to our next generation curses that they won't even realize that that's a curse. Because of our silence, because we're not able to speak, because we're not able to talk our truth. So what I'm working on right now, you guys, is speaking about my traumas, speaking about the things that I went through, the things that hurt me, what was done to me as a child. And I'm not going to let my son grow up to be a grown man and not know what affected me, what things I've been through. I'm going to tell him so therefore he can try to avoid those pitfalls that are naturally in his blood because I did it. Yeah, everything that I went through, everything, all of my pains, I transfer them down to my son. He's my child. He has my blood. So what makes me think that he's not gonna try to experience the same things? He's not gonna have the same wants, the same urges. So if anybody watched this video all the way through, I hope you got something from this. Main thing I hope you got is that we need to speak. We need to talk about our traumas. We need to talk to our children. We need to talk to our aunties, our uncles, our moms, our dads, things like that. So we can just try to break all these curses off of our bloodlines.
As a Black female attorney, you have to get used to being interrupted very often. So one experience that I've had over and over and over in the room negotiating contracts is getting cut off in the middle of my sentence, getting cut off when I'm explaining what our proposal means. I mean, what is it that you could say to me before I finish explaining what my proposal means? You took 20 minutes, a PowerPoint in 3 different colors to explain your proposal, and I can't get 2 sentences into mine before you say, excuse me, Jasmine, I just want to make a point here. Excuse me, Jasmine. I just want to say, and I've started, and it has become my line. I have started in response every time to say, actually, no, that was a comma and not a period. I am not done speaking. I'm not done. Respectfully, no, Bob, you can't get a point in there. It's not your turn. It just isn't. I gave you your turn. And I have to remind you, no, you can't have that point right now because you had your time for 20 minutes. I'm going to go and take up these 10. And if you need a moment, take a note. You need my pen? You want to write that note down so you don't forget it? We'll discuss it. We'll get there. But I'm not done speaking, and I'm going to fill the room. And guess what? You're probably not going to remember your question because you're too pissed that I'm taking up that time to fill the room.
I'm not a nice person, but I am kind. Nice is saying that everything is fine when it's not. It's smiling through tension instead of just naming it. Nice is dancing around a personal issue that you have with somebody and smiling in their face, but talking about them like a dog behind their back, all in the name of keeping the peace. But being kind is different. Kindness is caring enough about somebody to tell them the truth and respecting them enough to say it to them directly. And I think about this a lot when it comes to how Black women communicate. We talk to each other. We're directing what we say, and we say what we mean even when it's uncomfortable. And contrary to popular belief, that is not aggression. That's efficiency. This doesn't just happen in friendships and relationships either. This shows up especially in the workplaces, especially in places where you're expected to perform and have to have a certain tone just to be perceived well. I spent years at my job thinking that I was the problem. Too direct, too confident, too mature for my age, too aggressive. And that's when it clicked. The problem was that not that I said too much, it's that I said what I had to say to their faces. And they aren't built for that. Because talking to me about your issues with me is going to require you to actually mean what you said, but also to have the gall to look me in my face and say it. Sometimes it's not you that's difficult. It's your environment that is requiring you to shrink or to perform in ways that just aren't natural to you. So if you've ever been called intimidating, difficult, or aggressive, that is not a character flaw. It's a communication mismatch. You were built for the kind of community that actually talks to each other. And right now, you are probably not among that community. So, I'm kind, but I'm not nice. And I wouldn't change it. And neither should you.
Tell me if I'm right or wrong, but therapy language was supposed to help people communicate how they feel and what they're going through better. But in the process of that, some of y'all learned just enough to make yourselves harder to confront. Because now everything is a boundary. Everything is trauma, gaslighting, narcissism, and everything is protecting your peace. And I'm not saying those things aren't real, because they are. But when every disagreement becomes emotional abuse, every correction becomes disrespect, and every uncomfortable conversation becomes toxic, at some point we gotta ask, are people actually healing? Or are they just learning better words to avoid being held accountable? Because if you're really healing yourself, that should make you more self-aware, not more defensive. Real boundaries should actually protect your peace. not protect your ego from the truth. And the real therapy language should help you explain yourself better, not give you a script that makes everyone else the villain. Because that's the dangerous part. Some people don't want to heal. They want vocabulary. Because vocabulary makes avoidance sound so mature. So the question is, has therapy language helped people heal? Or has it helped people weaponize how they feel?
Depressed people are not always going to communicate or cry out for help verbally. Because during depression, their brain is wired for self-preservation. They are going to do everything they can to avoid any rejection, to avoid getting their feelings hurt, or even avoid confronting what they have going on. So a lot of times the signs and symptoms are going to show up through behaviors. They're going to show up by how they speak, how they interact, if they're texting, if they're answering the phone, if they're showering. It's going to be in their daily actions. If they are hanging out with friends or not hanging out with friends, if they are engaging in any of their interests or if they're not engaging in any of their interests. It is not always going to be a direct, I can verbally tell people that I am not okay. Some people's brain have already convinced them that they are a burden or that they are a problem, and they've had intrusive thoughts that told them that other people don't like them, they don't matter, and no one cares about them. So all they are doing in this point is reserving their energy, and sometimes that reserving their energy phase causes them to actually believe those things to be true. And once they don't have the ability to challenge those negative beliefs, they can fall into a much deeper, darker place. And that is where the support system usually starts to either step up or fall apart, because they don't have the ability to micromanage their support system. They don't have the ability to tell you exactly what it is that they do need, because they don't always know. I often think of Twitch from The Ellen Show and how his family responded after his loss. Even Robin Williams, after the loss, it seems so shocking to them and people who seem to have it all together. But the reality is your brain can convince you of things that might not be true. But once you believe them to be true, it can leave you isolated, alone, and very, very sad. We underestimate the capabilities that a depressed person has to communicate with us. And as a support system, we have to start looking for the signs and changes in their behavior to step up and support people. We are not responsible for the emotional needs of everyone around us. However, if we are calling ourselves a support system, we should really start noticing when people are struggling, because we're the last line of defense.
I'm done doing that shit. Because it becomes so heavy on me, or the person that I need to communicate it to is moving on, living their life, not even knowing what they did or what they said, how it was impacting me, and how I'm struggling with what they did to me or what they said to me or how they acted towards me. They have no idea how I'm struggling and how I'm feeling. They never will, because you never told them. I'm done doing that. I'm done letting my life pass me by and having the opportunity to talk about how I felt, but I'm so busy holding it in because I'm afraid of what people are going to say or how they're going to look at me or how they're going to judge me or whatever the case may be, that I never say anything at all. I'm done doing that shit.
What if I told you that learning all the words in this emotion wheel could improve your mental health and your life writ large? The most underhyped concept, in my opinion, is this idea of emotional granularity, which is a psychological term for the idea that the more precise language you have to describe how you're feeling, the better your mental health outcomes. The term emotional granularity was coined in 2001 by a researcher named Lisa Feldman Barrett. The thing she found was that the better the language you have, the more refined, the more precise, to help yourself and help other people understand what you're feeling, the better you are at coping with emotion, the better your self-regulation in general, and the better your mental health outcomes. It's just learning more words and learning how to apply them to yourself. It's right there, and it can change your life. So this guy right here is called a feelings wheel, an emotions wheel. Super useful. It helps you understand the more refined versions of each of the emotions by taking the category like sad or happy and then breaking it into smaller chunks. You should take this wheel and you should save an image of it on your phone. I realized while editing I should give you the full version to pause so you can screenshot it. So here it is. And then when you're having emotional experiences, instead of being like, ugh, I'm really mad today, or I'm really sad today. Think, okay, well, what type of sad am I? You're like, oh, actually, I'm remorseful. When you use that more precise language, it makes it so that you have better control over understanding yourself, but also you can help people understand you and feel more connected with others because you're communicating your emotional experience more precisely. So that's my gospel for the day. Start using more precise emotional language. It will improve your health and it will improve your life.
Hip-hop is indeed one of the most powerful forms of art that God has allowed humanity to engage with. There are so many things that I appreciate about hip-hop, but I would say at the top of that list is how clear of a communicator it is. Art, if it's worth its salt, is moving you somewhere. And the way that we are able to start movements, the way that we are able to break down systems of oppression, the ways which we are able to see light and hope and flourishing take root in this world is through the words of someone that then turns into action. But it starts with the power of the word that then moves into the power of action. So I love that hip hop is such a good starter for movements, for people's faith journey. I love that hip hop is a space where you can come and hear some of the most powerful preaching of all time.
Like, I remember when Young Thug first came out, he was on interviews or whatnot. No one knew what he was saying, bro. And what that kind of tells me is that people who could not speak clearly were allowed to contribute to the cultural norms of language in certain areas, which I find to be very interesting, because it's really only in academia where you're supposed to sound exact and super in line with the rules of English language. In the hood, you could be free.
Contrary to popular belief, rappers are supposed to be good with words. Yeah, it's actually in the job description. It's right up here, good with words. Syllables, definitions, all that shit. I don't know if we strayed far from the truth or we're losing recipes, but it doesn't matter if you're making ass-shaking music or you're the most conscious nigga in the room. Gucci Mane is good with words, just like Kendrick Lamar is good with words. You notice how both of those niggas don't make the same thing? Yeah, y'all are making it okay to be stupid. Stop that.
What's up? What up? Kendrick just won Rap Album of the Year at the Grammys. Let's see what we can learn from his speech.
I'm not good at talking about myself, but I express it through the music.
The best lyricist that you know is just telling us that he speaks through music and not through one-on-one.
It's an honor to be here, Tyler, the Clips. Like, these are my brothers to be in this category. What's up, Push, man?
Look at that. Happy to see his homies and they happy to see him. Beautiful.
Every time I tell you this,
What?
hip-hop is going to always be right here.
I think that this is great for us to understand. Hip-hop is bigger than just one individual person. It's a culture that's going to stick around.
We're going to be having our folks with us.
Look at
We're
that.
going to be having the culture with us. So I appreciate y'all. God is the glory. Love y'all.
Word. Beautiful. Beautiful. We all need to understand that some of us may not be the best at communicating one-on-one. And all that means is that you need to find another way to speak. Find your passion, find your drive, find your creative outlet, and use that to connect with other people. And then maybe you could really achieve some great heights like the people in this video. Shout out to Kendrick Lamar and shout out to you. Keep trying to change. Use your method to communicate and keep growing. Lock in. Holla.
Older rappers were not just, people who could rhyme well. They were linguists. They were English majors. They were intelligent in the art of communication, in the language of English. Did you guys know that some of these rappers had all A's when it came to English and wrote really good essays?
Repressing his generation and his people by saying they have no hope.
What do you know about my people?
I know a lot about your people.
White the guilt weight does not mean you know about the young black man. Excuse me, you see the anger, but you don't understand the anger. That's the problem. The 60s that we got all the rights that we need and everything is all right. No.
A lot of us blacks don't know how much power we have. Use that power and not let others intimidate us.
It's so hard for people in the ghetto to fucking be able to make it. Because 9 times out of 10, we all criminals in their eyes.
Using our brain to get out of the ghetto any way we can. We tell these stories, and they tend to be violent because our world tends to be filled with violence.
Your records are about gangs.
Our records is about the streets. Streets deal with everything in society.
People who use ideas and words, who communicate well, are rewarded the highest level. No, that's why people are so attracted to rap. I'm not a hip hop guy, but I just watched 30 years where people adore people who literally tear down other human beings out loud, say some of the nastiest things in the world. But why people are attracted to that? Because they have command over their tongue. They are articulate. They can deliver a message and they can do it with conviction.
And being able to rap is a marker of verbal intelligence and verbal fluency, which is associated with with the ability to articulate. And that in turn is associated with a high probability of success in the world. And so part of the reason that rap artists are attractive is because they're manifesting their intelligence in a creative way. And that's a signal of their general utility. It's a display of their intelligence.
Yeah, I'm very terrible at communication. Like, I can't talk with people. You know what I'm saying? Just the slightest thing, you feel me? Yeah. Make me shut down. So, but making music, it do nothing but listen. The mic don't do nothing but listen and pick up whatever you saying to it. Yeah. So, making music is therapeutic for me anyway, because it's the only thing I listen. They ain't gonna say nothing back.
I went from wanting to be the world's best rapper to helping people achieve their dreams through communication. And the skills are more similar than you think. But the crazy part is, I failed at everything first. Dropshipping, Amazon FBA, YouTube, print on demand, you name it, I bombed it. But those failures taught me discipline and resilience. Then I entered corporate tech sales. That's where I had my light bulb moment. I watched brilliant people get overlooked, while the average performers got their promotions. The difference? Communication. The technical genius stayed stuck, while the one who could communicate their value got all the opportunities. That's when it clicked. Rappers and the best communicators share the same superpowers. We tell stories that stick. We have rhythm and timing, and we make people feel something. At 22, with 0 uni degrees, I landed 3 high-paying offers at the exact same time. Not because I was the smartest person in the room, but I could communicate my value. Now I help the underrepresented in tech and professional fields get through the barrier of communication that is holding them back.
Your mouth is a mirror to your ear. It reflects understanding, and here's why this is a problem for you. Research suggests that 45% of communication is listening, yet we only listen at 25% efficiency. That means we listen about half as well as we ought to on our best day. And this is why misunderstanding and misinterpretation become our baseline. Whenever we open our mouths, what comes out is rushed judgment, heuristic processing, assumptions, drawn conclusions, not about what was said, but of what we decided to listen to. When we think about communication, we often obsess over articulation and delivery. But the most effective communicators aren't just great talkers. They're exceptional listeners. They don't just listen to words, they listen to meaning. And they don't just simply listen to others, they listen to themselves. They're always aware of how their own perceptions and biases might skew their understanding of someone else's perspective. Great listeners draw out truth, meaning, and perspective by listening deeply. They prioritize understanding over the impulse to be understood. And there's power in this because I think some people assume that listening has to be earned by others. But the more you understand someone else's perspective, the more precisely you can frame your message. Listening gives you a strategic understanding of how to be heard more clearly. So if you want to be heard, you have to learn to listen well, because people listen to those they trust and trust those who listen.
Listening actively is very easy until you realize that you're rehearsing your responses mid-conversation. Having been around public speakers for a few months now who pretty much do it for a living, I've noticed the biggest difference is their active listening and the way they respond to questions, or the time it takes for them to respond to questions. Usually when people need to speak publicly, answer a question, etc., and they may not be as confident speaking in front of a crowd, they usually start with, or that's how they usually start the sentence, right? But the more experienced ones, I notice that they pause for a while. Nobody's rushing me kind of flex. And in that silence, they're usually sometimes nervous or trying to formulate an answer. They just give themselves time to actually do that. Whereas other people are, they speak first, they say the and then they're trying to So I just want to remind people that if you're in that situation, or if you're being asked a question, you're under the spotlight, you are in control in that situation. You don't need to rush. You don't need to answer the question straight away. You can literally take as much time, unless it's like a timed, that you need to answer within 20 seconds. You have the time to answer questions at the pace that you're comfortable with. And again, in that silence, you gain confidence. You give yourself permission and time to think and answer questions coherently.
One of the easiest ways to improve your speaking abilities is to actually start listening. It's called active listening, meaning you pay attention to a person's pauses, their emotions, meaning their body language, their eye contact, their tone of voice. All of these factors matter way more than their words. And if you start paying attention to this, you can actually start reading the conversation a lot better. Because the words don't matter at that point. Because if you can't even read those signs, you won't even be able to understand the words. Because here's the thing, the signs will be different than the words, and they'll be trying to speak to you through the signs, not through the words. That's how people work. So you can improve upon this with words, but honestly, you just need to be around people more and pay attention. A lot of times when people get around people, they just want to hear themselves talk. When I get around people, I'm just trying to hear them talk. How's your life going? How's this going? How's that going? People love to talk about themselves. You just got to ask some questions and they'll get to talking. Now, I'm going to give you some books to help those abilities. First book.
Here's why most active listening advice sucks, especially if you're neurodivergent. So the basic advice for active listening is listen to understand, not to say something, right? Which is like, okay, sure. Now, if you're neurodivergent and you're focusing on understanding what they're saying, you're going to be focusing on exactly what they're saying, which we all know if you're neurotypical, that may not be the same thing. That's why a lot of neurodivergent people get confused when people say something, but that's not what they're actually saying. So for more helpful advice, what you want to do is, in your mind, answer these 3 questions. First question you want to answer is, what is the main point? The second question is, what is important to them about what they're saying? And third, how do they feel about it? For example, if there seems to be a disconnect between what they're saying and how they feel about it, it could indicate that there is a deeper subtext. Now here's where the active part comes in. Paraphrase your understanding of what they said in your own words. That way you can verify with them that your understanding is correct, and that will help prevent any misunderstandings.
I have a core rule, and it's this. I only speak if I can be heard. And so if I see a loved one, a friend of mine, just doing something so dumb with their money, right? They're just acting like idiots. Or a buddy, I don't have any friends like this, but let's pretend I did. Like I had a buddy that was like, man, I've really met this girl and we're kind of like, we're not hooking up, or like we go have drinks once a week or something like that. And he's married to a friend of mine. If they say, hey man, what do you think about that? Or am I crazy? Bro, you just opened the door like a vampire and invited me in. I'm coming in. I'm gonna give you full picture. But if you're being done with your money and you don't ask I'm just not gonna start giving you wisdom or advice or what I think is the right thing to do. I used to do that all the time, and I almost became abusive with that.
I'd rather have nobody than half of somebody. If we can't help each other grow, we gotta let each other go. Bad communication really ends a...
See, the thing with me is communication was simply never the problem. I know how to communicate. It's the reactions to my communication that's gonna blow me every time. I really take the time to sit with my feelings and my thoughts in order to come to somebody in the kindest and direct way as possible. And then they want to act like they don't know what I'm talking about. And that's where all that therapized mentality just fly out the window. Cause why are you playing with me like that?
You're not asking for too much. You're just asking the wrong people. And at the same time, you have to stop punishing people for not giving you what you need when you need it, when you haven't communicated what it is that you need. The expectation for people to be able to read our minds and know exactly what we need in the moments that we need it is an asinine thought process. And also, whenever you do communicate to someone what it is that you need and how you need it, if they continue to choose to not give it to you, it's not because you're asking for too much. It just might mean that they don't have the capacity to give you that thing. which is not necessarily a bad thing, but you choose what it is that you want to accept. You get to inject as much patience or as little as you want into whatever relationships exist in your life. Because true fact of the matter is, there are going to be some people that give you exactly what you need without you asking. It's not because they read your mind, it's just that's because that's who they are. And if they fall short, it is not because they do not care for you, it's because they are human. It's just going to happen sometimes. People are not just going to be able to give their all of the time, because truth of the matter is that's exhausting. It's exhausting. Being on an emotional leg every single step of the way is tiresome. And I know you know that because you're a person that operates in that way. At the end of the day, communication is one of the most important tools to be able to strengthen and hold on to whatever connection exists. Professional, personal, romantic, it doesn't matter. But we have to not punish people when we don't do what it is that we need to do to get them to do what we want them to do. If you want a hug, ask for it. If you want to be seen, ask for it. If you want to cuddle, ask for it. If you want to go out on dates, ask for it. If you want flowers, ask for it. But at the same time, you also have to be willing to tell them what you don't want. And it's not at a place of vindication or malice or nefarious purposes. It's out of boundaries. Just having boundaries. In reality, whenever we're operating through life, there's a certain point in time where we stop learning social emotional skills. And it's well before puberty. And then when we become adults, there's just this weird expectation for us to be able to know how to manage our emotions, express them properly and healthily, and be able to take other people's emotions healthily and properly. When in reality, once we get into our adult years, we're still in the infancy of learning all this shit. So have some grace with yourself and have grace with the people that are around you. Because we're all stumbling through this and we're all trying to figure out everything we can, as best we can, as quickly as we can. Because at the end of the day, all we want is just to be loved.
I think that like women a lot of times feel like they shouldn't have to communicate. Like you should already know. I shouldn't have to tell you. Yeah. I think that is a big gap. You know what I'm saying? Because, let's say for the good guys, you kind of remove their ability to kind of prepare themselves on their journey to make you happy. And then for the not so good guys, you know what I'm saying, motherfuckers who already got an agenda, you give them a out. You give them an excuse to use, like, well, you never told me.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So I think it would behoove young ladies, I tell my daughters this all the time, communicate.
You think you're staying silent, but your silence is communicating louder than your mouth, because behavior is a language, and your behavior will say what your mouth won't say. So if you learn to manage conflict or your problems by ghosting, ignoring, withholding love, or withdrawing, just know that it is communicating what you are not saying to the other person or people who are involved in the conflict with you. And then you wonder why, or you struggle to figure out why your relationships are not long lasting. You're constantly feeling misunderstood. Perhaps it's time to ask yourself, what are my attention-seeking behaviors? How do I try to let people know that I am hurt, that things that they have done have caused me harm? Or how do I try to communicate my limits to people with my behaviors without opening my mouth? And I get it. It's not always going to feel comfortable for you to say what you need, but I just want you to know that it's important for you to practice verbalizing your needs, verbalizing your limits, verbalizing what works for you and what doesn't work for you. Because if you think that people aren't seeing it, you might be fooling yourself, because your behaviors will always say what your mouth will not. And until then, be kind to yourself, because you deserve it.
Your worst symptom is the most honest thing you're saying. There's a kid in college. Smart, got into a great school. His parents talk about him like he's their greatest achievement. but he can't get out of bed in the morning. The depression is real. He goes to the college counseling center, gets a diagnosis, starts medication. Everyone's trying to fix the depression so he can get back to performing in school. But notice what the depression does. His grades start dropping, the calls home get shorter, and his parents start to worry. And then they start to panic. They fly out to see him, and for the first time in his life, they're not asking what he's accomplishing. They're just asking if he's okay. He can never say, I don't want to be the proof that you did a good job. There's no version of Sunday dinner where those words come out. So something in him found another way to say it. Something that can't be argued with, something that makes them come to him on completely different terms. Now think about a woman who keeps getting sick. She's never quite well. Headaches, fatigue, something always wrong enough that it needs attending to. Her husband leaves for work before she wakes up and comes home after the kids are down. She's never once said, I need you here. She wouldn't. That's not who she is. But the sickness says it for her because he starts coming home early. He cancels his business trips and he sits on the edge of the bed and asks her, what do you need? And for a moment, she has him. Not because she asks, but because her body asked in a language that he couldn't say no to. You've been asking, how do I fix this? How do I feel better? But a better question might be, who am I saying this to? Who is this symptom addressed to?
The difference between being a victim and explaining what you have gone through and what you've experienced depends on the emotional capacity and the emotional maturity of who you are speaking with. Someone who is not inconvenienced or uncomfortable with strong emotions and doesn't feel that instinct that they have to fix it and they can just sit with you and witness it, they will not feel like you are being a victim. If you are communicating with a person who is uncomfortable with their own emotions, or they feel like every emotion needs to have a solution and you are supposed to be doing something very solution focused to fix it, they are going to struggle with showing up and supporting you and seeing it as an explanation or just processing. There are some things that happen to us that you can't do anything about. And so some people after a while are just like, why are you still talking about it? We can't change anything about it. We can't do anything about it. But it is part of the processing. Not a lot that you can do to make them interpret it differently. When you continue to vocalize and explain, it's often because you need to be seen, heard, and understood, and you haven't felt that yet. And so understanding what you actually are seeking will help the person have the capacity to show up in that way. It is not always you. It's not always how frequently you talk about it. It sometimes is a reflection of the person's comfort with emotion.
Hip-hop is the language that brings us together and allows us to speak to our community in a way that's so authentic and honest, you know what I'm saying? Other cultures want in on the conversation, and we allow it. You have people of all colors now, because of this black art form, you have people of all colors and all ethnicities and all nations around the world connected, coming together and loving the same ideas and loving the same concepts. And 50 years ago, we invited the world inside our secret club, our private party. Hip-hop as a culture is a contribution from black people to the world that will never be forgotten.
The way black people are able to silently communicate with one another is truly amazing.
Hip is the mind. Hop is movement. It is always about finding ways to change the mind of the youth. Rap was about a way to them to consciously bring awareness to the youth who didn't have access to that information. Graffiti was a way for people to witness about what was going on and the problems in the city and the world through tagging on metros so that those metros could actually spread news. DJing was there for a reason to keep people in that frequency, because as long as good music is playing, there's no fighting happening. You're like, oh goddamn, it's a fight coming in. I need to fit it in. And dance is what we're doing right now. The fifth element of hip hop, which is often undersnowed, let's say it, undersnowed. If you look at Zulu Nation, or the Nation of Islam or different institutions, it was always, the fifth element was knowledge of self. It is hip-hop to always seek knowledge about self. That's why I say hip-hop was a conscious movement.
None of my friends watch battle rap, and I'm pretty sure everybody thinks I'm tweaking at all times because I just spew bars. Like, it lives in my head, and I relate everything to battle rap. I get in my car, and I'm like, I'm strapped in. And there's no response. Or, like, I'll get to the house, and I'll call, and I'll be like, I'm at your crib. Nothing. My phone's dying, I'll be like, I run to the charger, like 1%. Nothing. Like, what do you think I do?
I think hip-hop is most powerful when people aren't afraid to express themselves. You know what I mean? And the impact that hip-hop has had through its fearlessness and willingness to be outspoken, we see all around us. It speaks volumes on a global level. So I think if hip-hop is scared or people are scared to express themselves, I'm not sure that's hip-hop anymore.